Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to keep looking at Zendikar and we're going to look at Pumped Up, which is a blue and red deck. Let's start looking at this one. So, I don't really know where to start talking about this one really. I guess the strategy is blue-red spells, and we'll just say that, and we'll just look at the cards and I'll leave it to you to make your decision. So the foil face rare is Hellkite Charger, 4 and 2 red for a 5/5 flying and haste. So actually really well costed for its stats and what it does. Just 6 mana for a 5/5 flying haste is fine, and then it has this ability whenever it attacks, you can pay 5 and 2 red. If you do, untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase there is an additional combat phase. If for some reason you had 14 mana, you could do this multiple times in a turn, get multiple combat phases, which is which is honestly pretty good. The way the rest of the deck goes, I think you would really, I think, just play this and swing with it, and kind of that should put you in range to win anyway. Because the thing is, like, this kind of ability to get extra combat phases, which is very, very good. Yeah, when it's on a big 5/5 dragon, it's kind of like a win more card. Like, if you're attacking with a big 5/5 dragon, and you got other creatures in the deck as well, obviously, but yeah, this is the big one. Do you really need the extra combat step? I suppose, and I don't know. It's a cool card. I like it. Anything that gives you extra combat phases, I think, is very, very cool. You don't even necessarily have to use things in a second combat step. This could be a very expensive way just to untap all your stuff, going into your second main phase. But yeah, I think this is an okay rare to have in the deck. Whether or not, I don't know, whether or not it belongs in the deck, I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's the best available, and well, we'll get into it, as I said. We have 2 Torch Slingers, 2 on red for a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. Has Kicker for 1 and a red. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it does 2 damage to target creature. Flame Tongue Kavoo, this is not. So 3 mana for a 2/2, without paying the kicker is obviously not wonderful. Well, I mean, it's for red at the time, I suppose it is fine. But this kicker is really, I feel like this kicker is overcosted, like the 2 just to do 2 damage to a creature. So in the end, you're paying like 5 mana for a 2/2 that does 2 damage only to creatures, not to players when it comes in. And I just feel like that's really expensive. I suppose you could say it's common as well, I guess. But yeah, I think I would have just preferred this to be like maybe 1 and a red for maybe like a 2/1 or a 1/2, and maybe like that kicker cost just to be like obviously just 1 red. I don't know. I don't know if that would have made it then too good at the time, but yeah, even at the time when I opened this, back in the day when these cards were new, like this was, an unimpressive common. A single Ether Figment, so 1 and a blue for a 1/1, has Kicker for 3. It's unblockable, and if it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So if you put 5 mana into it, it is a 3/3 unblockable, which is okay, actually, I think. The fact it's not like Phantom Warrior, it doesn't require 2 blue, so which sort of helps a little bit in a 2-color deck, I suppose. You could play this just for 2 and attack with a 1/1 unblockable anyway. Yeah, it's okay. It's an okay card to have, I think. 2 Welkin Turns, just 1 in the blue for a 2/1 fly. It has high flying, so it can only block other creatures with flying. These are generally okay. I think these high flying creatures, as long as I feel like they're aggressively costed. A 2/1 flyer for 2 in blue at the time at common is okay. So have this blocking restriction, I think, is okay, because then you can be attacking with this earlier, I suppose, and doing a fair amount of damage. 2 Molten Ravagers, 2 and a red for a 0/4, has a fire breathing ability. So yeah, I think this is still like even. I think it's again just expensive, and it's just 1 mana too expensive. This could be 1 and a red for a 0/4, and still with the fire breathing ability, and it would be fine, I think. But at least it doesn't have Defenderous, but at least it's not just a wall that sits there. You can swing with it. So yeah, I guess it's okay. Yeah, but just having no inherent power is obviously kind of a pain, because it's a hungry deck for mana. This deck, there's always a kicker cost to be paid, or a spell you want to play. So I don't know how much mana you'd have left open to this fire breathing ability, honestly. We have a single Dragon Whelp, so this is from M10. 2 and 2 red, 2/3 flyer. It has fire breathing, but you could, if you do it more than 4 times in a turn, you have to sacrifice the Dragon Whelp. Yeah, it's okay. It's another flyer, I suppose. It's all right. And I said it before. I really don't know why this was in M10 rather than Furnace Whelp, which is 1 less toughness but doesn't have this restriction on the fire breathing ability. I guess realistically though, how often are you gonna have the mana open to pour into Dragon Whelp, like to an extent where it dies? I guess it's fine. Going to be talking about a lot. It's in a lot of decks, Dragon Whelp, going forward. And then just a page of M10 cards. So we have a single Raging Goblin, which is just a 1/1 with haste. Yep. A single Goblin Piker, 2/1 for 2, and a Canyon Minotaur, 4 mana for 3/3. Yep, these are all just obviously serviceable, boring. It really does feel like they're here to fill space. I guess. Some more M10 cards. So single Phantom Warrior. So I really don't know why there just wasn't 2 Ether Figments. It seems, like just have more cards from the set in here, but alright. So 1 and 2 blue for a 2/2 unblockable. Yes, Phantom Warrior is always okay. It's not super exciting, but it is fine, Single Prodigal Pyromancer, yes, okay, like 2, yes, fine. I was going to say there is a pinger in Zendikar, isn't it? The Spark Mage. But I think that might be in World Wake. Anyway, yeah, Prodigal Pyromancer is obviously fine. Just obviously boring. And then Fireball just for an X spell. I've talked about Fireball a lot before. It's okay. And then some more M10 spells. Single Active Treason. This is okay in a deck that's kind of light on creatures. Steal an opponent's creatures, swing with it. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Active Treason effect. Sleep also good when you're this deck is kind of light on creatures. So tap all your opponent's creatures down. You're kind of safe then for a couple of turns. Yeah. And then back to Spire Barrage. So the deck remembers it's a Zendikar deck. So 4 and a red, does damage equal to target creature or player equal to the number of mountains you control. But we're in a 41 card 2-color deck, so your land base is split. So this probably isn't going to do as much as you would like it to. In mono red, this is actually pretty okay for a common because it scales up obviously really nicely. But in this, I don't know if it's the best choice. I just feel like it would always be kind of underwhelming when you played it as is. I say if you just play the deck as is, it'd be not great. 2 Burst Lightnings. This is pretty good because this is it's strictly better than Shock. So 1 red, instant, does 2 damage to target creature or player, exactly like Shock, but it has Kicker for 4. If it's kicked, it does 4 damage instead. So the Kicker is expensive, but the option is nice. I say it just makes it better than Shock. So yeah, Burst Lightning is a good card to have in here, I think. Single Into the Royal. Really wish there'd been more than 1 Into the Royal, because this is, for a really long time, this is like one of my favourite spells in the game, just full stop. Because it's a bounce spell, potentially with upside. Yeah, so it's one and a blue. You return non-land opponent to owner's hand, and if you kick it for another 1 and a blue, you draw a card. So yeah, it's just good. So it's dispersed, but better. It's strictly better than an existing card. So yeah, I really like Into the Royal. Again, really wish there'd been more than 1 in here. And then the other rare of the deck is Rite of Replication. So 2 and 2 blue. Has Kicker 5, so super big expensive kicker. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature, so one of yours or one of the opponents, I guess. And if Rite of Replication was kicked, you instead put 5 of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. So this has been, I think, combo fueled just throughout the years, because it's a very big, flashy, fun effect. Making 5 copies of anything is always going to be pretty fun, I think. The fact that this is sorcery kind of keeps it a little bit balanced, I suppose. If it was instant, it'd be incredible. So what if you put 9 mana into it to get 5 copies of something? I mean, you're gonna have to rely on your opponent having something, because you don't really have anything too great in here you'd want to copy a lot of. I guess maybe like the Hellkite Charger. I guess obviously that would be pretty good to have a load of 5/5 dragons, but everything else is a little boring. Maybe the Phantom Warriors. I don't know. So this I think is better depending what your opponent is playing. And then that's it. And then we have a Terramorphic Expanse, 10 mountains and 7 islands, and that is it. So what could have been? So I don't like this one really at all. There's too many M10 cards in it, and it's so frustrating because it's trying to be like blue red spells, which we've seen before. Blue red spells is fine, but um, this feels like they should have waited on this one. Because for a better card pool maybe. The thing is, like in Rise of the Eldrazi, there's like red blue spells was like a really solid like archetype there. There's like much better cards available to do it, but they've done it here in Zendikar, and like it's not really using any of, I guess, kicker maybe, but like I don't know, it's just such like a mishmash hodgepodge of cards. I'm really not keen on it. But I don't know what could have made it better. Quest of Pure Flame, single red. It's a quest enchantment. When a source you control deals damage to an opponent, you can put a quest counter on it. Remove 4 quest counters, and all your damage gets doubled for a turn. Which is pretty good, which is kind of what this deck does, because I guess it's trying to win with burn, I suppose. Sphinx of Lost Truths, I think this could have been a rare maybe instead of Rite of Replication. 3 and 2 blue for a 3/5 flyer. It has kicker. When it ends the battlefield, you draw 3 cards, and if it wasn't kicked, you discard 3. So even if it's not kicked, it's okay, I think, to draw 3 and discard 3. And also be, another big flyer. That could have been here, I guess. And Whiplash Trap. None of these trap spells really get shown off that much in any of these decks, which is a shame because I think they're really cool. And what I said in the last video, it annoys me that trap spells got like the subtype, like in this one, instant trap. But these quest enchantments didn't get a quest subtype. It just, it really, it really irks me, and I would really like to know why that was. But anyway, so Whiplash Trap. All these traps have. Are usually pretty expensive to cast, but they have a condition where, like, if your opponent does something, you get to cast it for cheaper. And obligatory, you've triggered my trap card. You have to say it. You simply have to. I think it's mandated by law. So 3 and 2 blue. You return 2 target creatures to owner's hand, which is kind of expensive for that effect, but it is at instant speed. But the trap effect is if the opponent had 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under their control this turn, you pay only 1 blue rather than its mana cost, which is really strong. To be able to bounce 2 creatures back for a single blue mana is really, really good. And that could have been in here as well, because I think it's obviously meant to be a creature light, more control-y burn deck. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a really bad version of the Sparkler all the way back from Stronghold. Anyway, yeah, so in summary, I don't like this one. It's got almost like a disproportionate number of M10 cards in it. Like, I feel like if you bought this expecting a load of Zendikar cards, or Zendikards, as I've now decided to call them, and you opened up, and I'd say about a third of it is probably M10 cards. Like, you just feel like, oh, I've been kind of mugged off here. Like, I was expecting cool new cards, but these are all cards I've seen before in a core set. And that's going to be a thing in all these decks going forward, that they're going to have core set cards in them. But this one, I feel like the ratio is way too swingy in M10 cards' favor. Like, there's too many, and as such, it doesn't really have much of its own identity of being a Zendikar deck. I don't know. But yeah, don't like this one. And I say, just even if that wasn't the case, just playing it, I just don't really see any synergies or like fun interactions or anything. There's no levers or cogs being pulled or turning. Nothing is really happening. It just seems very basic and straightforward and suboptimal in my opinion. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the deck. What are your thoughts? Did you have this deck? You got any thoughts, comments, stories, opinions about it? Stick a comment below. I'll give that a read. Always like doing that. But I'll be back next time. I'm going to look at another Zendikar intro deck, hopefully one better than this one. But until then, thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.